is making costumes for your pets can be tricky with just a stapler, but it is possible if you follow just these simple steps.
Hey, it's Nino. Welcome to the Boise Hive podcast. I am joined in the studio with my graphic designer, engineer, co-executive producer, Alex. Go ahead and say hi, Alex. I also have Daniel Buhler in house. He is a Hive volunteer. Daniel, can you say hi?
Hello, Iderines.
All righty.
I guess we'll come back to my pet stapling tips later.
Yes, please. We'll make a note of that, and we'll definitely have to circle back to that. So, welcome to the show today. As always, we want to talk about the Boise Hive mission, which is to prevent suicide within the local community. And there's a number of different services that are offered within the Boise Hive. It's also a food bank. There's also rehearsal space here, so your band can come here and have a cool place to jam. All the studios have PAs. They have drum equipment that you can rent, and they always make sure that your jams always happen no matter what. It's a great place to be. We also have a schedule here on Tuesdays. We have Life Recovery 12 to 1:30. Wednesday we have Sober Curious 6 to 7:30. The last Wednesday of every month we have open mic 6 to 8. The last Thursday of every month we have hip hop 6 to 10, and on Fridays Vets Jam It Out 6 to 9. You do not have to be a vet. As you can see here, there's a number of different things that happen throughout the week here on top of our normal day-to-day. And what do you guys think about some of the services that we have here? Daniel, what do you think?
They're spot on. They're doing great things for the community, helping people.
I couldn't agree more. This place is serving and helping people. What about you, Alex?
Oh, it's great. And then, of course, we have like the Saturday concerts. Those are a lot of fun. And,
There's so many great things going on here. I mean, the food bank, they're feeding people here. I can't tell you how many times I've fed my personal family. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Like, I've used that food bank to feed my family, like straight up. Like, I've got frozen hams out of there.
It's there.
And for some of us volunteers, we've all become familiar with the Hive dinner. You know, you just...
Well, like Doritos and Gatorade?
Doritos and a Diet Coke on a Saturday night dinner. That's kind of our...
It's available, and it's not nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you say that because I didn't really realize that. And then when I was showing up to jam around the 5 to 10 hours, it's kind of like dinner time. It makes sense. And then I would have people show up kind of, hey, do you work here? No, but what do you need? And they would ask about it. And then it made sense. I was like, oh, absolutely, we do. It's right over there, you know? So, like, it does absolutely get utilized by volunteers at times.
This is the only place that I can eat popcorn because I don't have a microwave.
It absolutely gets used by the community on an everyday basis. And it doesn't, I think that sometimes it doesn't get highlighted enough. And along the lines of hunger and food bank, you know, today we're going to talk about homelessness and mental health because in my experience, America in general doesn't really have a homeless problem. I think we have like a mental health and substance abuse problem that doesn't get addressed enough. And although on the scale of America, I doubt Boise has a huge homeless problem. But as we all know, in the last 2 years, it's gotten more and more. Would you agree, Alex?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just add that going back to your previous episode that, you know, homelessness, I think, to a large degree, maybe varying degrees, is a product of trauma response.
Oh, absolutely.
And
these are people that have PTSD. These are people that have lost their jobs. These are people that don't have health care that can properly tackle these different types of issues that they have. I've seen stuff that says that like 20% or higher of all homeless people have mental health issues, and even higher, I think 60% and above have substance issues. So, I mean, if you don't have the resources or the support in general, I can see that, you know, being a very, you know, big hole or difficult hole to dig yourself out of.
yeah,
Well, and I think it's also important to kind of, I obviously don't have the stats in front of me, but there's also stats you could find for people who aren't homeless who have either substance abuse issues or mental health issues. And when you really look at those two, you realize like maybe it's not because of the mental health problems that they're homeless. Maybe it's not just because of the substance abuse.
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
there's a ton of these people that are like out there in the world, like living regular lives and have serious mental health problems or drug problems and stuff. And uh, that's part of what makes the homeless issue as complicated as it is.
And I think you have to have a certain skill set in a bunch of different arenas in life, and especially with today's changing housing market and climate. I mean, financial climate's changing so rapidly. If you're missing a certain couple of pieces from the board, your skill set of your pieces on the skill set board, you're going to fall through those cracks. And if you don't have your finances because of some paper, and then you start mixing,
It
you
compiles.
don't have the skill set to put it all together, and it's pretty easy to see how it happens to a lot of people.
Well, then
No,
it's
sure.
we all know, like, if you're homeless, it's a lot harder to get a job,
No, it seems like
and a bank
impossible
account and all that stuff. And
Yeah, I mean, you have to have resources. I mean, nowadays, like, you have to have like the internet. Like, you almost have to have like an email. You have to have a resume. Like, there's all these things that you have to have lined up. That
Like,
maybe
how hard is it to function in the world without a cell phone?
seriously,
and
like,
Yeah.
it sounds normal to some of us, but like, if you have nothing, like those are huge. Things that you're going to have to tackle to, like
Yeah.
you were saying, to build yourself back up and get back on track.
and then every job wants you to apply online. It's, well, what if you don't
Oh,
have
for sure.
Yeah.
Here's something that I saw in 2022. It was found that there was 1,998 unhoused people in Idaho, and 620 of those were in Ada County alone. So, and I mean, we all see them, throughout the day. I did do some research to find out that there are a lot of places and services to where people can go at night and stuff like that. A lot of the times during the day, there's not enough facilities to house them. That's why a lot of the times you'll see them throughout the day, and then at night they'll make a spot for them. But there are a couple places in town that
And honestly, that number sounds low to me.
I'm sure there's always going to be numbers that are not accounted for and stuff like that. There are a couple places in town that offer services. One of them is Interfaith Sanctuary. They can be reached at interfaithsanctuary.org, or you can just give them a call at 208-343-2630. They're actually the one that's right over by Rhodes Skate Park downtown. There's also a Corpus Christi House. They can be reached at corpuschristihouse.org, and their telephone number is 208-426-0039.
And then there's also the City of Light. That's kind of a women's shelter specifically.
Yes, I've heard of that too.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Daniel?
I'm guessing that number doesn't reflect people that are 1 foot homeless, but technically can't be labeled as homeless because they're living with friends for 3 months and a neighbor for another 2 months, and then they're out.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious how they get those numbers in the first place.
It's hard.
There's no way it's just straw polling.
Right.
No, there's always a system involved, and luckily,
Yeah, that's one thing I've never looked into.
Yeah, I mean, and luckily,
I'm no statistician.
we're looking. At least our fact checking is done by organizations and stuff like that have some type of reputation. But as always, next segment we are going to get into a band feature. This one is actually a little bit special to us because the Synth Society is a big part of the Hive. They have meetings here. They put on Hivetronica. They also are very big in the local community. I find that they're a lot of people's first line or first resource when they are trying to get shows or trying to get out there, and a lot of times that's facilitated within the Hive, on the Hive stage and stuff like that. But today our first band highlight is going to be Black Market Analog. You can check them out. You can search them on Spotify. Again, that's Black Market Analog, and this song is called Funky 17. All right. Once again, that was Black Market Analog with Funky 17. You can go ahead and search Black Market Analog on Spotify.
I love those guys.
They
They're
were
such
so fun
great
to see
people.
live.
So fun. Got a great drum kit. Got a great kind of electro vibe going, and they're also great guys too. I mean,
Casey and Dave, man,
they're
salt
great.
of the earth.
So we have Daniel here today, and as you know, kind of to continue on a segment that's going to continue, I should say, on the show, we're going to have Hive volunteers. So today we have Daniel. We're going to ask him a few questions to kind of find out about his story and what he does here. So yeah, we'll start off with that. I mean, Daniel, what do you do here at the Hive?
Well, I'm a volunteer here, so first things first, I came here to play music, and the first time I came, I left it and signed the paper to become a volunteer. Like, this is pretty cool. And so that was like 2.5 years ago, and I've been a volunteer here ever since. I've missed a couple of Sundays being out of town, but pretty much Sunday 2 to 6, I've been here for the last couple of years. So I come here, I sweep the floors,
Seen it.
sweep the steps, you wipe the cobwebs off the
Clean
wall,
the stage.
clean the stage.
Talk to the ghosts.
Yeah, yeah. There's some interesting sounds that you'll hear here. Like when I first got here, it was like COVID, and so it was really quiet. There was nobody here. The phone would ring once, maybe on a good day, and masks and people weren't doing a whole lot. And I was here almost by myself, and it was kind of a lonely place.
New life in here now.
Oh man, it's so different now. This place is hopping every day.
And you're involved with with the live at the Hives on Saturday, right?
Absolutely. I look at that product really as like the flagship.
Agreed.
You know,
The flagship showcase.
of the Boise Hive. The first time I saw it, I'm like, I want to get involved in that. Like 2 camera angles and sounds not coming through an iPhone, microphone. It's actually broadcast sound. Like those guys know what they're doing.
And you do a little bit of everything in that production. You do camera work, computer work. Is that right?
Well, that's the funny thing about it. We all kind of just show up and we put a team together last minute sometimes. Like,
Oh, that makes
we're
sense.
going on in 5 minutes. Our camera guy's not here. Let's just figure it out and go with it. So one day I'll be in the director's chair. Another day I'll be hosting. I love hosting, of course.
Daniel is the face of Live at the Hive, and if you ever
He seems to be.
if you ever jump on YouTube and watch some of these, you can see Daniel with 2 different haircuts now.
Thank you for the kind words. I feel like
You won't even know. Like you
2 Daniels.
you wouldn't even know. You just think it's
tale
two
of
different
two
two different
Daniels.
people. And
two
what
Daniels.
what brought you to the Hive? Like, what's your Hive story?
So here's the deal. I kind of had a midlife crisis a few years ago, and I was a carpenter my whole life, and my body just wasn't working. It just wasn't going to let me do that till I'm 80, and I figured out pretty quickly that I couldn't do that forever. So I'm like, what do you want to be, Daniel? Took a long look in the mirror, and had to decide, who am I? What do I want? And so I decided I need to make some changes. And so I relied on, my heart. And I grew up listening to music and art, and that's just who I am. And so trying to negotiate a change was difficult. So I figured I want to start a poetry boutique, an art boutique, kind of a creative boutique on the bench, because this is where I grew up. And
Absolutely.
It's a great spot. It's a beautiful community. Little rust and patina and thistles growing in the sidewalks, and it's just my vibe over here. These are my people.
These are your people. I will agree with you.
Just a couple blocks away. I'm a South Bobcat, man, and so all my friends went to West. They're the Mustangs. My son goes there now, and I mean.
Speaking of your son, he helps out here too, right?
Well, I got 4. I have 4 children. They're my best creations, and Brady, my youngest, he's all about it. He's involved, and the people here are steering him in the right creative directions, helping him create videos and music and learning and being around really high quality adults is.
He's
really
also done a
important.
good job hosting.
He
Yeah.
has
Oh my
hosted.
gosh.
Yeah,
And
I saw
that's,
the video.
I mean, Brady's gonna have so many stories that nobody at
Think about
school
the
is going to believe.
experience that he's getting. 1 minute he's in the control room. 1 minute he's on the camera. He's involved in all of these different things. The dude's 9 years old.
Well, similar. It reminds me a little bit of how you grew up.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, I mean, you got to be involved at a young,
You know,
young
yeah,
age. I mean, exposure to
yeah.
music and
Hmm.
instruments and technology at young age is huge.
So so yeah, I wanted to build this. I wanted to create my own little boutique, and I didn't really know how to do that, but I started looking at spaces, and um, my friends kept telling me, you should probably check out the Boise Hive. And I'm like, well, it sounded like a, at first it kind of sounded like a, go wash your dog, laundromat kind of thing. You
Yeah,
go
like no one ever really knows when you first hear it. It's like, what is
yeah,
the
yeah,
hive? Like, I'm
like a
good on
dog
honey.
washing spot. Like, that sounds kind of cool, but I probably can't afford it. It's probably out of my, like, if I got to pay money, I don't know, it was hard for me at the time. So, but by the fourth or fifth time, someone telling me that you need to go check it out, I met this volunteer named Sukneet Basuda, and we started talking about music. We met at a Christmas party, I think, in 2018 or 19, maybe. No, 2018. And he was like the fourth guy. Hey, we were talking about music and starting a little project and jamming. And he's like,
As we do here.
yeah. He's like, we should play at the Hive. I'm like, actually, let's do that. And so we booked it, and I've got video posted on YouTube of that very first jam in Studio One, and the rest is history. And I signed up as a volunteer, been here ever since.
Because it's undeniable. I mean,
I couldn't
if you're
recreate
truly a
this.
musician and you truly love music and the community, it is undeniable. You feel it the first day that you're
It's
here.
so warm here.
You're just like,
Yeah,
okay, this, like, I thought I was just gonna book a
yeah.
space here and have a jam, but like everyone's chill and there's
Hmm.
people here just hanging out and there's musicians here and there's all this stuff going on, especially around our nighttime hours. It's 100% apparent, like the second you're here, that something
Yeah.
special is going
It's a
on.
warm, safe, loving, love fostering environment.
It
It just
absolutely
is.
is.
It's my
Now,
temple, man.
it is a lot of people's temple, and I know that you're one of the people that I had mentioned on a previous episode that said that the hive was responsible for saving your life, and I think that you're not the only one. I've talked to a lot of different people around here over the last few weeks, and it's 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 heartwarming to know how good people talk about this
I have a
place.
story about that. So when I first got here during the COVID, era, we were wearing masks and people weren't coming in, and it was just a weird time. I'd come in here and it would be so cold in here, and you'd be in here and you'd hear some strange voices down the hall, and you'd be like, "Hey,
Oh, it
all right,
happens. It
I
happens.
see you, I hear you." But then I'm wandering around and wondering what to do, wondering, just kind of show up and you get a 10-minute tutorial on how to do things, but you don't really know how they work, like how to ring up a sale or how to book a thing
I still don't
online.
know.
Yeah, right. It takes time to figure all that out. But as I'm walking around back the COVID days, so it was cold in here and lonely, and I'm looking at these signs on the wall, and I'm looking at this suicide awareness poster and all these symptoms, and I'm like, wow, that sounds really familiar. Like, okay, I never really thought about this, but that's me. The next symptom, that sounds a lot like me. I didn't even really think about this, like about
When you look at
suicide.
it, it's
I didn't
it's
feel
eye
myself
opening.
as suicidal, but I'm reading all
High
these things,
risk.
and I like that. That sounds a lot like me, like giving your stuff away. So it kind of made me reflect, like, um, to take a step back and realize how much we really go through and put ourselves through. But it's kind of eye opening. And so getting through those COVID days was hard. You know, people would come in, and one at a time, I'd start making friends. One at a time, I'd come to the
So
next
many people have told me
Sunday.
the same story too, like about
Yeah,
like the post pandemic.
yeah,
Like all of a sudden just people started
yeah.
showing up
And
again.
all right, and I'd come the next Sunday, and I'd see George from, they didn't have a name at the time, and but with the Crawlouts, they were one of the first bands.
Love
Even
those guys.
Plum Vision was one of the first ones that would come, and I'd see him again the next week, and we'd start to talk and be like, "Hey, you guys are starting to sound pretty good back there." I get to hear all these bands.
Oh, you'd hear the progression. I've been here enough
Yeah.
to know. You'll hear
Yeah.
there's a high school band. I got to find out who they are. They play Beach Boys and stuff. I talk about this all the time. But you hear the progression of them
do.
getting better.
Yeah, and I'd be like, "You guys are sounding good. What's going on?" Well, Dave didn't show up again, so we had to get a new bassist. He's strung out and he's having a hard time. And hope he figures it out. But so they, come and
Oh, we hear all
play
the
and
stories.
practice, and they get better and be like, "When's your guys? What do you guys? You guys have a name? No, we don't have a name. Are you done doing shows? Well, no, not yet. We're still writing, but." And then 6 months later, hey, you guys are ready. What's going on? What are you doing?
We jammed here for a year.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Right.
We jammed here for a year
Yeah.
before we felt like we were ready to have a show. And this is a place that will,
You're not alone. There's a lot.
they'll allow you to do that. And the Hive gave us our first show.
Right.
After that, no
Yeah.
one was going to give us a show because we had never played a show. We had no really anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the Live at the Hive that we were talking about, and it just opened up a ton of doors. So, Daniel, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Again, if you ever come down to the Hive, I'm sure at times you'll see Daniel. Don't be shy. Come talk to him. Come figure out what he's
come
up
say
to
hi.
that day. Say hi. He's a great guy. Daniel,
my
thank you so
hand.
much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So as always, we'll close out the show, talk about our Hive contacts again. The Hive is a rehearsal space. It's a food bank. If you'd like to know more, you can reach out to us at boisehive.org. You can also search Boise Hive on YouTube. Our telephone number is 208-344-4994. If anyone out there is experiencing any type of suicidal thoughts or in a crisis, you can always call or text 988. This is Nino with Daniel and
Can
Alex.
I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Last thing? Just to finish up on that suicide note, every day I would ask myself, I didn't view myself as suicidal, but I would ask myself, is today the day? And the answer was no, it's not yet. And you just got to get through it one day and get to the next day. And
Absolutely.
That's all.
And
I
find a
got.
place that can facilitate you. Find a tribe. Find a community. Talk to people. Open yourself up. Don't hold it
I
in.
found it here. And
Yeah,
that's all I
absolutely.
have.
And it's a big part of the Hive community. Thank you for that, Daniel.
My pleasure.
So today we are going to, again, so this is Nino. I'm here with Daniel and Alex. We are signing off on the Boise Hive podcast. And I'll give it over to Alex for our last band feature.
And just before that, I just want to say our segment on homelessness is brought to you by Real Pages Yield Star software. Price fixing has never been easier or more legal for some reason. So be sure to write your state congressman or your state congress and let them know that this is wildly unethical that this exists, and it's a big reason that housing prices have gone up as much as they have. And that's going to take us over to our last musical guest playing us out. We got some music from Strange Lily. The song is called Leave the Door Open, and it's a damn good one. Stay beautiful, y'all.
Let's go!
Leave the door wide open. I'll be there soon. I know you more than you know yourself. I'll be there when there's no one else. Don't you see?